and welcome to today's Success webinar. The biggest thing that we're going to go over are the latest updates to the actual Shift app itself. So I'm going to actually share my screen and get into what it looks like live on an iOS device and go through some of your questions. So I'll go a little bit more into that in a second. So that being said, like I said, my name is Comfort and I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Shift. Definitely feel free to reach out to me at any time with any questions or concerns that you might have. We are here for you as a team. That's our website URL, my email, and my phone number here at the Shift office. I want you to know that we really take really kind of carefully and treasure the feedback and comments that we get from our Shift users. We are a mobile-first platform, which means that we really want to make sure that our tool is one that works well on all of your mobile devices and is easily accessible. That's why it's so important that you share your experience with us. So you could definitely send your questions directly to our customer success team here at the Shift HQ. To me, myself, Comfort, or my teammate Molly, who's also really amazing and knowledgeable. So we would love to help you out. With that being said, I am going to actually go ahead and continue to share, but I'm going to share the actual portion of my live iOS device. So I know that, let's see here, go share screen. Fantastic. So you should be able to see my iOS device now. We're looking at my home screen ultimately, and we see that there is the Shift app. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is ensure that you have the Shift app downloaded. One of the first things that we're going to be looking at today actually is to ensure that you have the latest version of the app itself. Why is this important? You probably get notifications while you're using your phone all the time that there's an update available for a certain app on your phone, and you probably, if you're like me, ignore them and just swipe them away. Or actually, if you're like me, used to do that. And now proactively, I've turned on auto install for new updates, which has been great. So every time there's a new update available for any app on my device, the App Store actually automatically updates it for me. I would strongly suggest it. But if you're not like the new me and you don't have auto updates, you want to make sure that you're using the latest version of the app. And you can do this via the App Store. So you're going to open the App Store on your iOS device. I'll go through what it looks like or talk through what it looks like on an Android device in just a moment. But we'll open up this App Store and we'll ultimately do a search for the app itself. Once the search results come up, we're going to actually find us and open up what it looks like in the App Store. So we've tried to make this really as accessible as possible. On the screen there, you'll see Shippy, Shift, Ship, Swap, and Schedule. And right where it says what's new in bold, to the right it says version history in blue, and then right underneath that in gray it says version 5.1.29. So the great thing about this is just a little snippet right here on the home screen of the landing page in the App Store. But if you actually tap on that section where it says version history, you can expand it and get a running history of every app release that we have created and launched. So this is really great to kind of see the progression of the app, to see the different fixes that have come up. Again, really in response to users like yourselves who are using the app and are really being so great and giving us that feedback, which strongly influences itself. So continue to do that. As I said, though, we always want to make sure that we have the latest version of the app. Why is this important? Because there might have been a fix that was pushed, because there might be a new feature that's involved, for a myriad of reasons. Like I went in and expanded here in that latest version. We see at the top there, again, it says it's 5.1.29, and it was 2 weeks ago that it was actually released. And all in all, it really just is a standard update. But we really want to, again, make sure, stress that this is so important so that you can access different things that you might hear about, again, maybe in one of our webinars like this. If we're going over a new feature and you're wondering, why can't I access that? It might be because your app is outdated. So what do you do if you have an Android phone? Like I said, this is on an iOS device. If you have an Android phone or an Android tablet, you're going to still want to go to the App Store, so the Google Play Store. And ultimately, you're going to see that when you open in the Google Play Store, you're still going to do a search for the Shift app, which again, we spell with a Y. And then when you open the app in the Google Play Store, the Android version is listed in a green box. So ultimately, it's going to be in green text, a green box. It's very prominent and easy to see. And if you tap on it where it says read more, you'll be able to see, again, a similar interface like this that has the version number and when it was released, as well as an overview of everything that was changed in that release. So again, if you're on an Android device, whether that's a phone or a tablet, you'll open up the Google Play Store, you'll search for Shift with a Y, open the app, and the version history and version information will be listed in a green box with green text. So again, you're going to want to go through this and make sure that you can access all of the latest things that we're going to go over today in the actual app itself. So back in the app, now that we know we have the latest version downloaded onto our phone, we can see that there are a couple of new things I want to go over. Ultimately, we launched a really great feature really recently called Availability, and you can access this via the Profile tab within the app. So if you've used Availability any, you know that it's a really great tool to be or really kind of make efficient or communication between employees and their managers who are creating the schedule. So you know that with availability, ultimately users can submit their availability, make changes, and you really want to be able to make the most of that. And that's what I'm going to go over today. So if you go into the profile section, you see here that I have a couple of choices. I am an admin profile at this location, Shift headquarters. So that's why I see team availability and my availability. Only admins will have this team availability option. Now, what you can do though, as a user, let's say you as a user actually want to share your availability with your manager and it's changed. It's changed and ultimately you go to profile and you go to my availability and you don't have the option or the actual interface to go into and make changes anymore. We see here that I can submit my availability when my manager has requested it. Well, my manager might not request it regularly or might not request it, soon enough. As a user, I would really highly recommend, sorry about that, going into the team tab itself and going into the inbox section and utilizing direct one-to-one messaging. So any user can do this. Ultimately, when you join a location, you by default have access to contact every user in that location. So as an employee, I can go into my team section, go into inbox, and if I tap on that pen up in the right-hand corner, it gives me a list of everyone in my location. So I can simply tap on the person that I want to have a new conversation with, and I can say, hey, I need to change my availability. I can share that message, and I can even say, can you please open a new request? Now I can send these directly to my manager and they'll see my name in this list here in their inbox. They'll also get a nice little notification from Shippy that, hey, they've been sent a message. And then from there, as a manager, I can say, oh, I got a message from Nikki that ultimately she's looking to change her availability. I can go into team availability, and we see that as a manager, ultimately I have access to every user's availability. So these are all of my associates who I'm managing. Ultimately, even though it's just one person, Nikki, who needs to change their availability, I can open a request for everyone, and that's what will happen by default. So as soon as I open that request, I'll be able to see that it is now open for new changes. I can go into the 3 bars up in that right-hand corner, and I can see that all of these users have yet to make changes since my just now opening this new request. Ultimately, Nikki, though, will be the one who really sees this, and Nikki can go into my availability, and we see that the screen has changed. So previously down at the bottom of the screen, it was a green bar that said I had to wait for my manager to open the request. Now we see that it's a red bar with an exclamation mark, and it's telling me that I can go in and change my availability. So I can delete the days, maybe that I'm no longer available, and I can add in the days that I'm now available. I can go ahead and submit these changes and confirm that I'm submitting these changes. And there's that green bar again. That's confirmation that I've shared it with my manager. And ultimately, as an admin, when they go into team availability now, they'll see my name just like this, and there are the changes that I just made. So those are the days that I removed, and ultimately that updated Sunday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. As an admin, once I see that the one user I was looking to have make changes to their availability has gone in and done this successfully, I can go ahead and stop this availability request, which is great. So ultimately, we see everyone's name reappear back in my list, and we know that ultimately we're looking at all of the availability that's the latest submission for each user. So just because a user didn't resubmit their availability, it doesn't mean that it's gone forever. It'll default back to the latest submission, which is nice. The other thing about this, ultimately, that I may have highlighted for a lot of users is the fact that I'm making the most of the team tab. Now, the team tab is that chat icon down at the button, and we see normally this is the default landing screen. So we see a list of a number of different groups ultimately here, and this is every group that I'm a part of. So a team ultimately is going to be every user in my location, and a group is going to be the forum where we talk. So by default, whenever I join a new location, it will add me to the team that has every user in that location. It'll be the name of that location. So we see there, Shift Headquarters matches my location name at the top in the black bar, Shift Headquarters. And then from there, I'm in a number of different groups that as an admin, I can create, which is really nice. So that big blue bar up at the top tells me to create a group. If I hold my finger down there, I can select that, and ultimately I can create a new group. So maybe I want a running status update or a running late group. I can create this, and by default, it's gonna have me actually select the users that I want in this group. So it's not gonna add everybody, but if I wanna add everybody, I can easily do that by tapping each plus sign icon by the user's name. I'll select done, and then we'll see that new group appear right away up at the top of the screen. It has a nice new icon by it, and if I select it, it will say that standard message, this is a private group, and only the people in this group will be able to see the chat thread that happens here. Now this is nice if this is a location-wide group that I want to happen. I can always add users, add new users who maybe join this location, join the company at any time. That goes the same for users who leave the location or leave the company. You can remove them there as well. And this is a really great way to make use of custom groups, really to not just focus your attention, which is really great and I'll go more into, but also to have a good line of thread of communication with your team. Maybe you also want to create a new group that ultimately has things like promotional updates that you're having in the store. Oops. Chanel. I can name my group, and then again, I can go ahead and add every single user to that group, which is nice. So we can keep track of the different lines of communication that are happening in the store, different events, and where people are all centralized to the groups or the team portion of the Shift app. So that's really great. I said a little bit about focusing your attention or focusing your communication. We see here in this list that I have a number of different names. We've got some inventory groups. Maybe I'm a manager of a retail store, and ultimately I am looking to make the most of this group, and not just of that, but ultimately as of my ability as a manager to create an open post. And an open post ultimately is a post that I'm creating and pushing to every user's home feed that's available to pick up hours. And only I as an admin or another admin can do this, which is really nice. And then it'll still need to be reviewed by an admin to be confirmed or denied. So I selected that red plus sign down at the bottom, which gives us our create menu. And we see that option down in the right-hand corner in purple, post open shift. So I select that, say, this morning I actually got a really big shipment into the store, and I'm looking to pick up 5 more employees on the floor to help me unload the shipment. So I'll select today, and I want them to come in this evening. So I'll enter in the hours of the shift, and I can enter in details. Let's say we've got new shipment, perfect. And then, like I said, I wanted this post to ultimately be for people who can help me unload inventory. So I want to make sure that they have the right skills, the right knowledge, the right understanding of how it works in the back distribution center. So ultimately I can go into my groups. We saw that by default, whenever you create a post, it's going to want to publish to your entire team. That's that group I mentioned earlier, Shift Headquarters. But I can select the option My Groups just to the right of that, and from there, I have access to every single group that I'm a part of. So like I said, it was inventory, and I can go in and select the group that I want. We now see that it's going to reach 4 people instead of 6. And then I said that I wanted 6 extra associates or 5 extra associates on the floor. So I can say that I want this to post 5 times. Now, I'll have the opportunity to review everything that I'm going to push into the feed before it actually publishes. I see that I'm posting an open shift for today, Friday, July 20th, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And ultimately, it's going to post 5 times to the inventory group. And if everything sounds right and looks right, I'm going to say, yes, let's post it. And then it's go ahead and confirm, hey, it's posting number 5 of 5. I can go into the home feed, and I can see now that all of my open shifts are waiting to be covered there. Ultimately, if my team comes in and they're looking ultimately to be for new shifts, I can reset this, and let's say we want to pick up all of those. We now see, again, those are my shifts Friday, July 20th, and it's there 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. If an associate selects this, ultimately, we see that I can't select my own shift, but they'll have that coverage option there in blue, and they can select it and wait for it to be reviewed by an admin. Now, as this option, again, I want to really highlight the fact that we're making kind of the most of admin availabilities and going through how to really access your entire schedule. So let's say you go through one of these shifts and you pick them up as an associate. Ultimately, you want that to be reflected and be highlighted in your schedule. If you are approved by an admin for a shift that you've offered to cover, it will automatically add to your calendar, which is nice. So not a lot of people know that. They think that they have to select a day individually and say, oh, tonight I'm going to be working from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then save that each time. So that's the day I just selected, July 24th. Now, if you pick up shifts, ultimately it will end up being highlighted in green like we see for each day there. If I select one of them, we see every shift that's available that day. So these are the 5 shifts that I just posted as open. Ultimately, they're going to be under my name because I posted them until they're actually covered by another associate. Individually on another day, though, let's say on manager, I'm just working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, this is really nice. I can go in and I can delete this from my calendar. Why would I want to delete my shift? Maybe that's changed. Maybe there's been a new publish of the schedule, and I'll go over a good way to maybe see and view that as an admin in a second in this section. But maybe I just want to remove it because ultimately other admins can see all of the shifts on the calendar. So if I go into, let's see, if I go a few days or a few months back, we'll see that there's a day on April 13th that's highlighted in blue. What that means is that there's a shift on that day that belongs to another user. So individual users, individual associates at this location will see their own shifts highlighted in green, and they won't be able to see their coworkers' shifts. But as an admin, I will see shifts of every user, and any day that has more than one shift or a shift that's not mine on it will be highlighted in blue, like the Friday the 13th in April. So maybe I want to delete a shift from a day that way because I don't want people to see it. But maybe in that scenario, I'm actually the admin who needs to share a new schedule that's been published. What I can do is I can make use of the photo schedule option, which is actually being revamped right now by our development team. So try not to get overly attached, but this is a great convenience right now. If I select photo schedule, it will bring me to this view. What I can do as an admin, if I go into my schedules here, we see that I've set an actual photo as a schedule. So ultimately, if we go into all schedules, and we select the plus sign, we have the option to add a work schedule. And what we'll do here is we'll select the days that it's for. So let's say it starts today on the 20th and it goes until the 31st of July. And then I'll say next, and I'll say maybe it's the second version of the schedule. So we'll call it V2. And then from there, I can use my camera on my mobile device to actually take a picture of a paper schedule that's been published, or if I've saved one in my library, I can always have access to my photos there, and I can select a schedule from there. Ultimately, though, what that will do as I've gone in and I've published it, it will appear in this list like this one does, and the name that we give it will appear there. Ultimately, I can go in and select it, and we'll see as the user that I have the option to actually set this as my schedule. Down at the bottom there, it's highlighted in blue text. We see the dates that have been highlighted for, so that was when I was in the calendar and I selected the beginning date and the end date. So that's what it will cover. If I want to set this saved under my schedules, I'll say set as my schedule. I can zero in here, and now we see it ultimately, it's changed up at the top from all schedules to my schedule. Again, this is an option for admins or even for users who they come into the store to check their schedule maybe every couple of days, or they got a phone call or they got a message in the team tab that there's a new schedule. You can always share it this way via photo schedule. Or actually, that's a really great point. I can go into the team section here, and if there is a new schedule, I can maybe create a new group as an admin, and I can publish that so I can let my team know that there's going to be updated shifts or updated edits to that latest schedule. The great thing is about any one of these groups, if I go into them, is we see here down in this message bar, there's actually the option for a camera, and then we see two trees to indicate the gallery. So if we tap camera, I can access, again, my camera from my phone, or if we tap gallery, it'll give me access to every photo saved on my phone. So if I am just another user or another associate in the store and I see that there's a new schedule and I want to tell everyone on my team because I'm such a great coworker, I can go ahead and use the camera and take a picture of it, and I can post it to this feed, which is really nice. So let's say I do want to go ahead and select this, and I can say a message here, and ultimately we'll hit send, and there's my message in that feed. So really, again, making the most out of groups and being in constant communication, centralizing that communication with your team for your users as well as your management and your leadership is really kind of easily accessible and easily available to every user. So I really wanted to make the most of that. Ultimately, though, also I wanted to go over a couple of questions that we had from a lot of our registered users. So you might not have seen it, but when you registered for this webinar, there was a questions or comments box, and a lot of you actually really took advantage of that. So I'm really impressed and really excited. Thanks so much for doing that. So with that being said, I want to get started, and I'm going to go over and read and then kind of go through these different questions that I have here. And then I'm also going to open it up to all of you active users here today. So if you're in the Zoom window, I know it looks like we had a user who was looking for a phone number to call in, but if you can see my screen, you'll also be able to see down at the bottom the opportunity to submit a question via chat. You are absolutely welcome to do that as well. With that being said, let's see here. One of the first questions that I had, it looks like, was from one of our users named Chris, and it says that when they're posting messages to the team as well as to direct message to other users, they ultimately don't have visibility to what's being typed after a certain number of characters. So it looks like they're probably in this team section here, and they begin to type a message. Hey everyone, and I'm just going to go through and add text for a number of lines just so that I can see kind of what it is that they're referring to, get an idea of what they're talking about. It looks like it may or may not be a previous issue, maybe on a version of an older app. So again, one of the things that we talked about at the beginning of this webinar was making sure that you have the latest version of the app, because as you can see, my message is getting longer and longer, and it doesn't seem to be eliminating my view any of exactly what it is I'm sharing with everybody. So it might be that, Chris, you have a version of the app that is older, and you just need to update it. So that might have been a design flaw that's been recently resolved, because again, it looks like I can see this pretty well. I also know that personally I use an Android platform, and I have the latest version of the app. It shows me maybe 4 or 5 of the first lines, but then if I scroll up, it'll show me the rest of them. So it may not expand the way that it's currently expanded for an iOS device right now, but it ultimately does give me visibility into my entire message before I actually post it to the entire forum there. So you see that I was able to post that entire message and see all of it before I actually posted it. So Chris, I probably recommend, again, going into your phone's app store, searching for the Shift app, and then verifying your version. So again, we see I've opened up the app store. We've got Shift with a Y, and the version is 5.1.29. So that was Chris. That was a good question, though. That was very specific. I'm glad that you brought that up. Our next question is with Stella. It says that, why are you unable to see a post that you submitted? So posts should be in your home feed. Ultimately, we see each card here indicates an individual post. We see from my profile that my name, my test name here is Terry Walters up at the top. So if I go back into the home feed, we see that I can see my own posts. So if you remember, I did those 5 open posts for associates to come in and unpack inventory. These are them. Again, it matches my name, Terry Walters. It's likely, Stella, again, that it might have been an issue that is unique to maybe an Android platform. I personally haven't seen it, but it might also just be an outdated version of the app. So I would recommend updating the app. That sounds like probably a bug issue. It could also be a loading issue. Sometimes on mobile devices, you want to check your settings for your network connectivity. So it might be strictly to just your cellular network. It might be just to your Wi-Fi network. It might be programmed to switch between both of them. And if it ran into a connectivity issue at the point you were trying to load your posts, it might have looked like you couldn't view them. So I would say check your phone's connectivity settings as well as where you were. Maybe you were in a dead spot. And if that's still an issue, definitely feel free to reach out to our support team here at Shift HQ. Send us an email. and that's just support@myshiftwiththey.com, and we'll definitely see if we can't troubleshoot your specific case. So that's a really great one, Stella. Be sure to follow up with us on how that's going. My next question is from Nancy, and she's asking, can we post a schedule other than the picture option? Do you have any POS integrations? And this is a fantastic question, Nancy, that I am delighted to go over because I'm always really excited about what's coming down the pike and how the product is being shaped and growing and evolving. And currently, right now, like I said, when I was kind of going over the demo of how to use the photo option, to not get overly attached, just because we are in the process of developing it, and then our product team is really looking at how to make the most of sharing schedules other than that. Integrating with a number of different options, whether that's a software system or a proprietary system, is definitely something that we're doing research on. So we're trying to make the best decision. Right now, we're getting a lot of data. We want to make sure that we have as much information as we can about these different options available before we build our product. So kind of that was a long answer. Like I said, I get passionate, but the short answer of that would be that currently, for different larger clients, we definitely have the opportunity to set up an integration kind of once and done if they have an internal software system. But ultimately, some of the larger known, well-known software kind of known for creating scheduling, ultimately we are looking at integrating with. So that's kind of like a halfway yes, and we're looking to make it to a full yes, Nancy. Definitely keep checking back, keep checking in for our monthly webinars at least. Hopefully they might get more frequent, as well as checking into the App Store and checking that version history, because you might see a new feature concerning that very scenario with the schedule, maybe in just a few months, maybe in a little bit longer than a few months, but ultimately, again, we want to make sure that you have the best experience you can. So thanks, Nancy, for that question. And then we had a question from Kate, and she said, where do I go when I need training? So first of all, fantastic initiative, Kate, because you signed up and registered for a webinar. This is a great first place to start. Coming to our success team is really the best way to get training. And really coming to our webinars, we're ultimately looking to do them on commonly asked questions, common topics, different features of the app as it grows and evolves, like today. And ultimately, we really love the opportunity to address a lot of the experiences our users are having. So that's a great place to learn about the product. Additionally, we are working on building out our current resource center. So our current resource center is definitely great. It's got step-by-step help articles as well as video tutorials that show you what it looks like on the app itself. None of them longer than 90 seconds, all available via YouTube. And we're looking at really expanding that again as our product grows and as we kind of get more understanding from what our users like you are experiencing, so that we can create that content to really address it and make sure that, again, it is a resource for all of you. So that's a great one. Ultimately, though, if you have really specific needs, we also definitely just encourage you to reach out to our support team, and they will connect you with me. Again, my email too is a great way to get in contact with me, and I'll make sure that you get set up appropriately. Absolutely, we want to make sure that everyone has a great experience with Shift. So it doesn't look like I have any other questions. Don't feel like if you didn't get a chance to kind of follow along, maybe I was going pretty fast, or you felt like you had more questions, or will have more questions, you can definitely go ahead and submit those via email, support, again, at myshiftwiththey.com, or feel free to check out our resource center. That URL, which will probably help if I give you, is support.myshift.com. And if you input that into any internet browser, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Firefox, and hit enter, you'll be able to find those help articles and tutorials that I talk about. Ultimately, again, I really want to thank everybody for joining me today for our July Success webinar. It's always a pleasure to do these. I love interacting with our users and this product, and really kind of working with education and making sure that things are efficient and you can make the best of it. So check back, check your emails from me, from our team. Like I said, you'll be getting updates about ongoing webinars in the future and all the latest updates from Shift and our product and success team. I hope that everyone has a great Friday and a great weekend. Take care.